What's up guys, welcome back to PTPioneer, the best online resource to starting out as a fitness professional. In today's episode, we're going to give you guys the top tips to passing the NSCA CSCS Certification Exam. By the end of this video, you should know exactly what you need to know in order to pass the exam. Now, if you're looking for a certification that best suits your needs besides the CSCS, head over to PTPioneer.com and take the quiz on the main homepage. There, you'll be able to see what sort of certification would be the best fit for you. Now, if you're looking for some additional study materials for this specific certification or any other certification, head over to traineracademy.org. You can try out their MVP study program completely free, and they offer an exam pass guarantee. All of the links can be found in the description below. Now, don't forget, we also have special deals on packages for anyone that's looking to become a personal trainer. You can find the links to that up here in the corner and also in the links in the description. Now, as always guys, don't forget to smash the like button and subscribe if you guys want to see more content on how to become a fitness professional. Other than that, we have a lot of complex information to get to, so let's get right into the video. So to start, the CSCS certification is one of the most complex and difficult certifications you can get within the industry. Having a strong focus on strength and conditioning for elite level athletes, this is one of the more difficult exams that you will have to take. Now, despite all of that, it won't be entirely difficult. We do have a couple of tips for you in order to get started. To start things off, make sure that you're prepared to answer complex analysis questions. This comes in the form of different topics such as bioenergetics or biomechanics, and also includes things such as nutrition and program design. Lastly, these analysis questions also cover testing and evaluation. So all in all, you need to know all of these topics in addition to how to answer complex analysis questions. All of the information can be found in the textbook, so make sure that you're holding on to this and looking through the relevant content. Now, tip number 2 is to be able to teach and evaluate recovery techniques. Now, at the beginning of 2020, the NSCA added teaching and evaluating recovery techniques as part of the CSCS program. This information, however, is not within the Essentials for Strength Training and Conditioning textbook, at least not in the 4th edition, so you will have to look for this in other resources. This information is going to be covered in the practical/applied section and is going to be covered in the exercise techniques domain in the CSCS exam. This new task will have roughly around 2 to 6 questions pertaining to this information. So with the task of having to find relevant information outside of the textbook, NSCA normally recommends credible resources. We would normally recommend sticking to finding something that has credible research-based resources. A lot of this information is also put out by the NSCA in their publishings or even at some of their conferences. A good resource to check out that we recommend is the exercise recovery, science versus practice. This was a resource that was put out by the NSCA Coaches Conference a while back. We'll include the link for that specific video session in the description below. Just one thing to keep in mind, it's going to be free only for NSCA members. Now, the third tip is to understand work intervals and what energy systems are going to be used. For example, if you have a client that's working a work interval between 5 to 10 seconds, that's going to be using a different system compared to someone that's going to be executing work for over 1 minute or 3 minutes. In addition to that, you need to know the correct work to rest ratios for each of those intervals. For example, if you have a client that's working a work interval more than 3 minutes, it's going to be using the oxidative cycle. Correspondingly, you need to have an understanding of what that rest interval needs to look like. For example, in terms of the work to rest ratio, it could be something like 1:1 or 1:3. A prime example of a work to rest ratio is if you have a client that's sprinting for 30 seconds, you would naturally give them a rest interval of 90 seconds. We'll also include the whole list of the different work intervals as well as the different energy systems used, so feel free to pause right here and take a look. Now, the 4th tip is to understand what sort of exercises need to be applied during which part of the season. This corresponds to the volume of exercises that needs to be implemented for the client. That way you can fully optimize their training. For example, during the off season, you might want to optimize high volume and hypertrophy training, While if they're playing a sport in season, you want to be optimizing lower volume with a focus on strength and power. Preseason will have a moderate volume with the strong focus on strength and power, and postseason will mainly focus on general exercise. Now, you will need to know how to write a full program on a blank piece of paper, starting off from the off-season, moving into preseason, season, and postseason. For example, on the chart that we have displayed here on the screen, you can see on the far left, we have the off-season. This is really focusing on that really high volume, as well as that hypertrophy training to build muscle in the off-season. Moving into the preseason, we start to shift towards some of that strength and power exercise. And then during the season, we cut that back a little bit more, just so that way we can focus more on the performance in season. And moving on into the postseason, we do have some general exercise to both keep them active and also reduce the potential risk of further injury postseason. Now, the next tip moves on into the exam itself, which is to be able to understand and how to read multiple choice questions. Now, the components of a multiple choice question are as follows. First, you have the item. This is the overall question that you're trying to tackle. Next, you have the stem. This refers to the statement that asks the question. And then you have the options, which are the different options that you have to answer that question. Generally, when you start off, you want to read the stem of the question and ask, what is the main focus of this question? Before moving forward, make sure you fully understand what this specific question is asking. Next, read each question answer carefully. You want to start off by attempting to answer the initial question before you look at some of these answers. Next, you start to eliminate each question one at a time. Now, it's super important here to be careful of what information is being presented. Some of it might be mostly correct, but you want the best answer. Some other recommendations that we have for reading multiple choice questions is to look for opposites within the question answers. This makes it easy to eliminate those first, and then you narrow down your choices to find the correct answer. Another tip is to identify choices that are so similar, it's hard to differentiate between each one. Again, this comes back to finding what is the best answer out of which ones seem mostly correct. Another tip is to not overanalyze the question. Be sure to read it for face value and then try to assess what sort of answer will be the correct answer. Now, tip number 7, like what we mentioned previously, is to use the textbook. Most of the relevant information will be found in the textbook, minus some of that information that we mentioned previously. It's highly recommended that you go through and read each chapter in detail. If you're able to digest the information within the textbook, it will make it a lot easier when you're attempting practice quizzes or practice exams. Now, tip number 8 builds on that concept in which you should definitely use a study guide. This will help you identify what are the main topics that you want to be studying and reading in detail within the textbook, and which ones you just need to skim. This is super important if you're trying to cut down your study time overall. So all in all, we definitely recommend utilizing a study guide when you go through and prepare for the final exam. We do have some of those resources over at PTPioneer.com, and you can also check those out over at traineracademy.org. Now, our 9th tip is to use spaced repetition flashcards. Over a period of time, you will start to forget some of the information that you study. So with spaced repetition flashcards, you can revisit some of the information that you've already gone over. And if you do this periodically, this will reinforce the long-term memory. By doing this will make things easier to recall when you're taking practice exams and quizzes, and also better prepare you for the final exam. If you guys want to see more content related to that and other study methods, make sure to leave a comment down below. Now, our 10th tip is to take as many practice exams as you can. You won't fully know if you're fully prepared for the final exam until you take one of these practice tests. If you do end up taking these practice tests and you end up failing, that's perfectly okay. You do have a lot of time and you can revisit some of the questions that you got wrong. Our general rule of thumb is that if you are able to pass the test with 85% or above, then you're ready for the final exam. And a final bonus tip is to set a decent study schedule. Everyone taking the final exam will come from different backgrounds, such as people working a standard 9 to 5 and trying to do a career change, or people that are studying full-time as a student. If you set a solid time to study and prepare ahead of time, then you will be fully ready to take the final exam. So those are all of our tips to passing the CSCS exam. You can check out some additional study materials over at traineracademy.org. They have their MVP study program completely free. Just select the one that you're studying for. If you're looking for an additional study guide to prepare, head over to PTPioneer.com. Here, you can also take the quiz on the main homepage if you're looking for other certifications. This will help you determine which certification would be the best fit for you. Lastly, don't forget we have special deals and discounts for anyone that's looking to purchase a personal training package for a specific certification. Check all of those out in the link up here in the corner. Lastly, don't forget to smash the like button. It definitely helps out the channel, and subscribe if you guys are looking for more additional content to becoming a fitness professional. So that's it for this video, guys. Thank you guys so much for watching. Good luck studying, and we'll see you guys in the next video.